It's time to worry about ACC football. It's time to worry specifically about the allegiance, even of previously thought of very, very true and loyal ACC members' allegiance to the Atlantic Coast Conference. And the reason being, right now I'm going to jump into the defense. The first college football playoff rankings of the entire season came out last night. It was shortly after this show, started about 7 o'clock, the reveal. It's time to worry about the ACC. And here's why. We know what the reputation is of Atlantic Coast Conference football right now. And I'm not talking about from those of us on the inside that cover it and watch it and are fans of it every week. I'm talking about from the national sports angle. The ACC is not seen as top level. I think it is top level in a lot of ways, but it's not seen as that. Do you know how I know? Because Florida State last year was an undefeated conference champion and couldn't even work their way into a 4-team playoff. So when they expanded to a 12-team playoff for this year, thus the college football playoff rankings, the first time ever you're looking at the top 11 or 12, depending on where that group of 5 team is, versus the top 4, I immediately shuddered when I saw it. There is one ACC team in the college football playoff if it were to start today. One is a catastrophe for the conference and for holding the conference members' allegiances and loyalty. Right now, Miami is at number 4. They are getting a bye. They are doing great. The next closest is SMU at 13. Obviously, the top 12 get in, and maybe the top 11 plus whoever the group of 5 is if it's outside of the top 12, right? Right now, Boise State is at 12, so they would be in as the top-ranked group of 5 team. But if they were 15 and SMU were 12, Boise State would get in before SMU, assuming they win their conference. So it's not even like their first team out, really, although kind of SMU is. If you're wondering about the entire list, I'll read it for you quickly. First, Oregon. Second, Ohio State. Third, Georgia. Fourth, Miami. Fifth, Texas. Sixth, Penn State. Seventh, Tennessee. Indiana in 8th. BYU 9th. Notre Dame 10th. Alabama in 11th. 12th, Boise State. Followed up then by SMU in 13. We talked just a couple seconds ago about Boise State at 12. Heather Dinich of ESPN explains why that's so important.
Boise State being in the top 12 is important. And I think you guys mentioned this, but college football fans need to know that if the 5th highest ranked conference champion is out, they would be bumping out a 12th team. But there's the flip side to it. They could be one of the 4 highest ranked conference champions and earn a first round bye.
Look at that. Boise State, they're excited. ACC, not so much. Let's dive in, shall we? SMU has 1 loss. It's to BYU. BYU is a top 10 team in the rankings. They have 1 loss, and it's to the 9th team in the country, according to you, College Football Playoff Ranking Committee. That's not me. You said their loss is one of the best losses in the country. They have 2 wins over ranked opponents. Started to put together quite the resume for SMU. I don't even like SMU, but I can look at the facts and say, that's pretty good to me. Putting them at 13 is telling the ACC you have to be undefeated to have any control over your destiny. You can't have 1 loss to a top 10 team. If you don't go undefeated, don't come crying to me when you're not in the top 12. And that's an issue. That's a big issue. Because schools want to be able to control their entrance or withdrawal from the college football playoff. They want to know they have some type of autonomy and not the first sign of adversity, get out of here. Meanwhile, let's talk Notre Dame. Because Notre Dame's always, that's everybody's golden child, the Golden Domers. Let's talk Notre Dame. They play a whole bunch of ACC teams. They are in, by the way, they're sitting there at number 10. Their losses to Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois couldn't beat NC State before NC State figured out how to play well. They have 3 wins over ranked opponents, one of which actually matches matches SMU. They both beat Louisville. Then they have two, I wouldn't say less impressive, but I would say less impressive wins over ranked teams, Texas A&M and Navy. SMU's resume is better, but Notre Dame is in and SMU isn't. What does that tell you? It's a reputation thing. It's a brand thing. They will look at it and decide, not let you play it out on the field. They will look at it and decide the ACC is less deserving. And by the way, I'm not even saying this doesn't ever benefit the ACC, but it shows. Even the explanation for Miami being ranked as high as they are, I think should raise eyebrows for everyone else in the ACC. So Miami is ranked 4th. That's good, right? For the ACC, that's good.
Very good.
But then you see BYU at 9, and you go, wait a second. Why is BYU below Miami? Let alone 4 spots below Miami. Let alone Miami's in a bye. BYU's going to have to go on the road in the first round. What the heck is going on here? Because Miami has fewer ranked wins than BYU does and has played significantly more close games against worse teams than BYU has. The College Football Playoff Chair, Ward Manuel, and his media availability after the rankings came out, while speaking on behalf of the committee, he's like the mouthpiece, the speaker, if you will. He cited Miami's offensive prowess when asked about the gap between the number 4 Hurricanes and number 9 BYU, who are both undefeated, and then added it came down to more of an eye test. Now, thankfully for the ACC, their eye test put Miami above BYU. Thus, they get the bye, and they can probably, as long as the loss is a good one, maybe in the ACC championship, still survive that. But if they can do it to BYU, they can do it to you.
Well, BYU, based off this, would actually be the 4 seed because Oregon and Ohio State are both Big Ten schools. They're 1 and 2, so both those can't get buys.
True. Well played, and an important detail. I guess what I'm saying here would be BYU if they don't win their conference, and Miami if they don't win their conference, would then be battling to not have the bye, and falling from 9 and falling from 4, BYU would be likely to fall out because of where they are in this initial ranking. Despite the fact that objectively, if you did the thing that people love to do on Twitter, which is you hide the name, you put Team A and Team B and just put their resumes and say which one is better, everybody's going to pick BYU. If they can do that to BYU, they can do it to you. Miami, luckily, you're the bigger brand than BYU. What if the undefeated ACC team was Pittsburgh? What if the undefeated ACC team was Georgia Tech? Would you get that same Miami bump? What if it wasn't BYU who had a nearly identical but much, I wouldn't say much, but noticeably better resume? What if it wasn't BYU, but it was LSU? Are you getting that bump? You're not. If they can do it to you, if they can do it to them, they can do it to you. What I took away from this initial ranking, and I read them all for you, is first and foremost, the thing they value is undefeated, which, yes. I mean, if you want to go full control what you can control, if you don't lose any games, you're probably pretty safe in any power conference. Unlike in the past where a Florida State team could really get messed over like last year. Under this, if it's undefeated, that's priority. You're probably good. Other than that, as much as it is resume, it's name brand, it's recognition, it's blue blood, and it's what they call the eye test. And maybe even based on what Ward Manuel said, you better start building your team to score a bunch of points. They're not as excited about a 9-6 win as they are a 54-48 win, because Miami loves a 50-40 game. But the offensive prowess was cited for why they're better. If you play a little bit better defense, I don't need offensive prowess. I'm pitcher duels out here, and you're looking for home runs. We're looking for wins. I did not like the college football playoff the way it came out, because once you start saying the bigger brands or the teams with a better history, or you get to the subjective, the eye test, a bit more than the factual, I don't think the ACC is going to come out on the right side of that. And then when I say you have to start worrying about the loyalty, that's when teams get really upset. I don't like that Florida State wants to leave the ACC. I don't like the way they've handled themselves. I've made fun of them. I've chastised them for how they've handled themselves in the courts and everything else. But I don't fault them for being very, very mad and looking for people to blame last season because they deserved to be in the college football playoff and they weren't there. I believe they should have turned out, like if they wanted to sue somebody, they should have sued the College Football Playoff Committee for not putting them in. They should have aimed there. Instead, they aimed it at the ACC. And I don't think there's any guarantee that as teams get messed over more and more, they won't aim at the conference as well. In which case, it's just a matter of time until every team gets messed over once if this is how they're going to handle business with the college football rankings. Once Virginia Tech should be a 9 seed and they end up a 15 and not in, they'll be angry at the ACC. They'll be saying if I played in the SEC, I would have been there. Once UNC, NC State get messed over, they think they should get the bye and they don't, whatever it is, then they'll be mad saying if I wasn't in the ACC, this wouldn't have happened. And once you have those thoughts, it's the beginning of the end. The grant of rights will keep you in only so long until teams can afford to leave. Is it going to be an issue tomorrow? No. Next year? No. 5 years from now? Maybe. Because that exit fee drops every year towards 2036.